Ukraine, new world order.
That's right. You know, the thing that the world has loved about Ukraine, the Ukraine conflict in general, is Ukraine underdog, right? Underdog. The bookies are paying out big time for the underdog. And not only that, Ukraine has this wonderful air of sort of folklorian mystery about it. Of course, we all remember the ghost of Kiev. There's the grandma. There was some grandma that had some folklorian tale behind her, giving what was it? Sunflower seeds to Russian soldiers, so when they die on Ukrainian soil, a flower grows. Right. All sorts of fairy tale-esque stories coming out of Ukraine. Well, there's more, Gons. The Sunday Times is reporting Shaman special forces take the fight across the border into Russia. Dun, dun, dun. Rotor blades clattered in the night sky as the helicopters. Even the reporting on it is like we're reading a fairy tale, like book to a young child who has stars dancing in their eyes. Rotor blades clattered in the night sky as the helicopters streak low over the Russian border. Ooh, on board the men of the Shaman Battalion, an elite Ukrainian special forces unit prepared to disembark deep behind enemy lines. Their mission to destroy infrastructure vital to the Kremlin's war effort was one of the several covert raids inside Russia. The Times has been told by two of the operators who took part and an intelligence officer, the first time Ukrainian special forces have acknowledged taking the fight into Russian territory. The exact targets are classified, but the team's forays across the border help to explain how Russian oil refineries, ammunition depots, and communications networks have been mysteriously sabotaged.
Hey, hold on. Stop for 1 second. Mm-hmm. I just want to point out how the secret group, the Shaman Battalion, went into Russia. They're not saying what they did, but also notice the Russian oil refineries, ammunition depots, and communication networks being mysteriously sabotaged. Are they not basically showing their hand here with this article?
Well, you'll remember the reports of these attacks deep within enemy lines. Remember the Telegram guy. Remember, most of the reporting came from a Telegram guy, just a guy on Telegram, and none of the mainstream was carrying it. So they got a little note like, don't cover this, please. Right. But you get the UK rags like Daily Mail and Metro.co.uk were reporting it. Which was suspect already.
Whoa.
Refinery, I think a weapons
we lost
depot.
you for like 3 seconds, at least live.
Really?
Yeah, it's doing that thing
so
again.
Annoying.
Yeah, I don't know. I
don't know why it's doing that.
Yeah, my whole system is like laggy the last couple episodes, so maybe it's me on my end.
Yeah, I wonder if that's you or me. Yeah. I'll do a speed test when it's not my turn to talk. Okay. But the point is, okay. So the reporting had remains of a very specific missile. They've been reporting these as missile attacks. Right. And I'm thinking that these missile attacks were a bit of a rare red herring. And that maybe the photos of the missile parts were sort of planted in the telegram. And really, it's an boots on the ground team of shamanistic special forces.
Yeah, we need to get back to the Shaman Battalion.
We're doing it. There's a lot more to
here
we go. Oh, I know. This is great. I just wanted to connect that to people who have been following the reporting on the show. It's all connected is the thing. Okay, it continues. And this is a great part. Sergeants Handsome and 22. What a cool call name. Handsome. I'm Sergeant Handsome. And 22, both aged 25 years old, have been fighting President Putin's foot. Look, it's sad. It's sad, Gons, when the young, bright-eyed little podcast boy, feel like a grandpa compared to these special forces units.
Oh, trust me. That doesn't end, buddy. That just gets worse.
Oh, I know how you're feeling, Gons, but I'm just a baby.
Of course. But throughout this article, it goes into more. I don't know. Just keep going because there's a lot here. We got to parse through.
I'm going. I just needed to have an existential crisis live on air. Both aged 25 have been fighting President Putin's forces since his hybrid invasion of Ukraine in 2014. In 2014, these guys would have been like 18 years old.
Exactly.
Intelligent, articulate, and in peak physical condition. They were selected for the special forces after years of combat in regular units. Quote, the most interesting missions are working behind enemy lines, planting explosives behind the front lines beyond the border, said 22, detailing a plan to sow confusion and dissent among the enemy that he asked the Times not to declare.
Wow. This is a long. I lost him completely. All right, hold on 1 second here, folks. Let's see. Let me just get Basil off the call. Maybe he'll call back in. Let me just continue reading until he calls back here. He was in the quote. The most interesting missions are working behind enemy lines, planting explosives behind the front lines beyond the border, said 22. And by the way, for those of you listening, the two sergeants, they're Sergeant Handsome and Sergeant 22, both 25 years old, a part of the Shaman battalion. So, okay, they're behind enemy lines, said 22. Handsome added, quote, the Russians don't know what happened. They often can't believe we were there. Both are members of Shaman Battalion, a nickname given to Ukraine's 10th Special Forces Detachment for its almost otherworldly abilities. Now, I find that fascinating that they would be named the Shaman Battalion, and the reason for it being, whoa, there's Basil. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here, and I don't know why such a catastrophic event would have happened.
that was bad. Did your computer turn off?
It's just a disconnect, just a pure disconnect.
All right.
My speed test is fine. Download's a little slow, but upload's looking good. So,
okay.
I think maybe you should take the reading on this just while I stabilize the system over here.
Yeah, I was already kind of doing that. So, yeah. Okay. Good. So, where was I? Yeah. Your thoughts, though, that the sentence here, both are members of Shaman Battalion, a nickname given to Ukraine's 10th Special Forces Detachment for its almost otherworldly abilities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a interesting way to...
Spirit warriors,
man.
Yeah,
the spiritual warriors. Yeah, the Shaman Battalion is the assault and reconnaissance arm of Ukrainian military intelligence, which means U.S. too. And it accepts only those men who pass the most grueling tests of endurance and survival skills. The unit specializes in diving, parachuting, and mountaineering. Honestly, Basil, in another life, you and I, it wouldn't be Basil and Gons. It would be Sergeant
Handsome.
It'd
be Sergeant Handsome and Gons.
We'd be battling for Ukraine for all our lives.
You know what? I'm only just a couple years too old, I think, is the problem. All these guys are extremely young, but hey, these are the skills. Hit me up, Shaman Battalion. Actually, please don't. I don't want to do that.
Don't do that. Yeah, don't use the word hit.
I have a podcast I have to do. I don't have time.
It has fought alongside British and American troops in Afghanistan and earned a reputation as the creme de la creme of Ukraine's special forces. Quote, we send them to take on the most difficult tasks because they're the best and the bravest, said a senior Ukrainian intelligence officer there. Excuse me, I'm trying to do a show here. Oh, yeah.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it's kind of just a complete disaster all the time. Quote, they are hugely important to the war effort. Although the unit was better prepared for February's invasion than other branches of the country's armed forces, it still came as a shock, Handsome said. Quote, every day we have been told the invasion would start tomorrow, and then it didn't come, he said. When it finally started, I didn't believe it.
Oh, no. Yeah, you and me both. Sergeant Handsome.
The men were thrown into battle immediately against their counterparts in the Russian Spetsnaz at Antonov Airport in Hostomel, where helicopter-borne paratroopers were attempting to secure an air supply route to armored columns advancing on the Ukrainian capital. Quote, "We took positions in the hangars and the barracks, engaging in a 4-hour firefight until we needed to rotate with some National Guard units." So I'm picturing these guys, just hanging out, and then, all of a sudden, it's on. We're actually gonna war. Let's do it. And then, going into the barracks and then like getting their guns out and shooting Russians for 4 hours. It's like, okay, all right, I guess we're doing it. So
the whole thing, he's waiting for it to start. I mean, it even at the, I don't know how many other details. This article really is.
It's long.
It is you are reading a fairy tale story. Not that it's not real. It's just very sort of weird, like I don't know, it's just very mythical. And they tell story after story about these guys and their amazing feats. But yeah, at the end here, it does mention before the invasion, 22 had begun planning to set up a chain of gyms. Handsome was expecting to go into Ukraine's blossoming IT industry, build a house and start a family. Now they are focused solely on defending the motherland. Quote, "Everybody has his own motivation. Somebody has a wife. Somebody already doesn't have a wife. Some people have family in occupied Kherson or under Russian artillery in Mykolaiv." 22 said, quote, "My motivation is to fight to see something different, to see a civilian life for the next generation, to not have to fight a Russian war."
Okay.
It's a profound statement from one so young.
You skipped the really some important parts here. First off.
Sure. Well, that's why I asked.
Yeah. No, there's a part here that has, it says this: Shaman Battalion was involved in every big engagement in the battle for Kiev and continued to harass the invasion forces as it fled through the Chernobyl exclusion zone back across the Belarusian border. So that whole time, all that stuff taking place, these two guys were, going at it.
They were there.
Yeah. Special forces have formed the backbone of Ukraine's defenses, often organized, freshly mobilized troops who are highly motivated but undertrained and ill-equipped. So it talks about how the Ukrainian forces were very motivated, but they were sort of under-equipped, informed, undertrained. Yeah. The Russian forces, on the other hand, according to these guys, they have heavy artillery and everything else, but they were psychologically they were down in the dumps, they were down and out. They weren't feeling very positive about what was going on. So it was interesting. And it talks about how 22, excuse me for 1 second.
Yeah. Well, while he takes care of the babies there, I think this is the takeaway from this is a similar takeaway to I don't even have my video on.
No,
sorry
you don't.
About that,
that's part of it too.
Sorry. So can I give a takeaway?
Yeah, sure.
So
there was a couple things. Here? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, okay. We said we were going to be efficient.
I know. It's just the show's just been very, I don't know. Sporadic and clunky.
Crazy.
And
it's crazy, man. It's okay. So why don't you hit your important stuff, and then I want to do a takeaway.
Okay. So the guy, I think it's 22. He's talking about all the violence. He's talking about how he went to war at age 18, blah, blah, blah. And, he went into some of the stuff you talked about. I think he got hit with shrapnel. And it mentions it. Yeah, he was okay. So blah, blah, blah. I had this all highlighted. I apologize to the listeners. This is just a complete disaster of reporting the story. It says here, he was hit by a frag grenade last Sunday while storming a Russian trench, but has left the shrapnel inside his forearm, covered only by a large plaster rather than pause operation. Quote, "We're trying to creep up, use stealth to get close. It's very difficult. You have a lot of equipment. You need a lot of ammo. It's very heavy when you're trying to crawl. It's very noisy." So I don't know, man. They're painting these two guys as some kind of war hero type of thing.
Yeah.
But also one of the things that I'm curious about is, they're painting these guys as sort of like supernatural soldiers. And in the context of what the Russian military people have talked about prior to the whole Ukraine thing blowing up, the whole They want the Scythian, to resurrect the Scythian army and all that kind of stuff. Right. It just makes me wonder if this is just continued steps in revealing the super soldiers in our world, because we haven't really seen
perhaps
too much of that in the open. But now, with the robots taking over and the revealing taking place, I think we're moving in that direction.
So you're going full Looney Town with it.
Well, I mean
the super soldier cybernetically enhanced clone warriors.
Well,
that,
I think
Putin's been talking about for a few years.
The psychology is being set. Calling these guys the Shaman battalion. And making the spiritual connection. Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going with this. I mean, I think the whole point of this, and it's been very effective, and we know this because Ukraine has used it before, which is, first of all, the psychological operation. And this is not the first time that this psychological operation has been used in history. We've had I forget the name of them. There's an ancient culture who, very much used this idea of like, our warriors are like they're ghosts. They're like spiritual beings that fight our wars. And
they fight alongside us when we go into battle.
Yeah, or we are them. It's a whole thing. Right. And, the secular historians say like, this was an extremely early and extremely effective example of a psyop, of a psychological operation against their enemies. So, because if you can spook your enemies into thinking that you are a ghost or like some sort of demigod or something, is very effective. And we've seen Ukraine do this a couple times before. And I also think that is very effective. And I think you mix that with the obvious psychological operation or misinformation campaign or whatever that came along with the operations the Shaman battalion was carrying out in Russia, blowing up weapons depots and oil refineries and things like that, planting fake pictures on Russian telegrams that subsequently get reported to cover their tracks that there are boots on the ground. These types of things. It's an interesting, very ancient and very effective psychological operation. And at the same time, I think you're correct. Putin has been talking about doing the same thing, except the nature of his psyop, and it may be real, but at least a very effective psyop. He's talking about cloning Scythian warriors, bringing, they talk about their cyber warriors, their super soldiers, their exoskeletons. Many of these things have not materialized on the battlefield, but we can see moving into the future how much of what we get reported to us is the groundwork has been laid by the sort of psychological operation folklore, which is so common in Russia and Eastern Europe, just in regular civilian life, not even just military life or whatever. Yeah. So I think that this is gonna play into some very big events very soon.